Section C, outlining.
Okay, you've got some ideas. You know what you want to write about, but you still have questions. What do you do with all these ideas? What should go first in your paper? What should go last? Who invented the donut hole and why? But most importantly, how do all these things you've been thinking, free writing, and researching about connect?
At this point, it's kind of like having a bunch of puzzle pieces without the box to look at. You've got all these pieces, but you don't know how to make them fit together.
I wish I had a box to look at.
And if you're confused about where your writing is going, then you're not going to be clear about what you want to say.
Unclear.
So what should you do? Well, you need to figure out how you can create an essay that has a direction that makes sense and at the same time is detailed and clear. A typical method used to help you figure out the structure and direction you want your paper to take is outlining. There are two primary methods of outlining available to you.
One type of outline is clustering. Clustering is a visual grouping of ideas on a page. You group your ideas according to how they connect, not by where they appear in your paper.
Clustering is a good way of figuring out how your ideas fit together. So how do you do it?
Well, you start with the question your paper asks, or the topic or main idea of your paper. You write this in a circle in the middle of your paper. Next, like free writing, you brainstorm ideas that connect to this central idea. These ideas are branches of your main idea. You keep branching as you think of things that connect until you run out of ideas. Notice it looks like a giant web when you're done. And just for fun, you can add some spiders to your branching. Uh-oh, a fly's caught in the web. Oh, and here comes a big black widow. Oh, no.
Clustering is effective because it allows your mind the freedom to connect ideas without trying to force your ideas into a confining structure, like an essay or a rigid outline might. Let's go back to Nathan and use his free write as a basis for his clustering.
His preliminary thesis is that he'll describe the different groups that form in high school and argue why those groups form.
He can use this as his central idea in clustering.
Looking at his free write, we can see that he's already started to divide high school into groups. Nathan thinks the popular kids are beautiful and that there are several categories of nerds. He also thinks there's a group in the middle.
So Nathan can use these as bubbles shooting out of his central idea in his cluster. These are the major subcategories of his main idea.
Next, he splits the nerd group into several social groups.
He has those nerds which are socially inept, those that are really into school, and the nerds that are physically unattractive.
Remember, cluster outlines work the best when you let your mind wander. I need to change the oil in my car. Oh, and I forgot to buy milk. When an idea pops into your head, you just connect that thought to whatever idea it follows from.
Since part of his main idea is to figure out why so many groups form in high school, this can be another bubble coming from this central focus.
We'll stop here. You can keep going with your clustering for as long as you have ideas. You can also use clustering throughout the writing process.
Clusters can be used instead of free writing. They can also be used to help you study. You can group the main ideas from your class in preparation for a test. Or, when you're given a question on an essay exam, you can organize all the ideas you have into clusters before writing.
Now let's look at another type of outline.
So are we ever going to start on the rough draft?
Remember, all this pre-writing, like the free writes and outlines, are going to keep you from getting writer's block when you sit down to write your essay.
These pre-writing activities are kind of like the gallon of gas, jumper cables, and spare tire you keep in your car. If you start to stall in your writing, you can refer back to your pre-writing to get you on the road again to finishing your piece of writing.
Now we're going to look at a linear outline. Most of you have probably used this type of outline. You connect ideas and examples by where you think they will appear in your paper. Let's go back to Nathan and see what a linear outline of his paper would look like at this time.
His preliminary thesis is at the top. Remember, this was the central idea placed in the middle bubble of his cluster. Now we'll show you how to break one of these social groups into a linear outline. Let's outline the popular kids.
Remember, there are several groups of popular kids: the attractive group, the athletic ones, and the smart Alex.
These social groups will represent by hyphens. These are subcategories of the larger group, the popular kids.
Nathan can go into even further detail for each of these groups.
These descriptions are indicated by bullets and are slightly indented from the group of popular kids.
Nathan would do this for every high school group. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to each outline method. You should use whichever one works best for you.
As we said earlier, clustering allows you to roam freely with your thoughts. You're not constrained by the direction your thoughts take you in. However, this can be a disadvantage at times. Some writers would rather use a linear outline since it gives them a more concrete structure from which they can write. They know where to begin and where they'll end. For other writers, a tight structure can be a disadvantage. Using a linear outline will constrain their thought process and force them to insert ideas where they don't belong.
Now, no matter what method you use, these outlines are only intended to give you a direction as you begin writing your first rough draft. As you write, you'll probably find that your outline will need to change.
So let's look at where we are in the writing process. We've done a couple of free writes and decided what our topic is going to be and how we can fit it into the demands of the assignment. We've also looked at what kind of research we're going to need for the assignment. We've just finished creating a preliminary outline that has organized our thoughts and given us a direction when we begin writing a rough draft. And that's what we're going to do in the next